Tony.
Hi, Mike. How are you? Good to see you.
Mate. Nice to finally see you.
Yes, likewise.
Right.
And good to discuss something that's of mutual interest to us both.
Yeah, the science behind track cleaning. Who would have thought it? So, hello everybody. Mike from Model Railways Unlimited. I've got Tony with me from SteamsoundsAU, and another channel well worth checking out. And a while ago, after I made my video about cleaning track with IPA and track rubbers, Tony reached out to me and said, it might not quite be the case. You might be making a little bit hard work for yourself. And so we've been on quite a journey together, despite the fact that we're quite a few thousand miles apart, to sort out for everybody track cleaning and stock wheel cleaning and what the science is behind it and what that horrible muck that we all see and all have to spend time cleaning off could be.
Yep. Yeah, so I think when I saw what you were doing, Mike, I remembered an article that I saw in Model Railroad Hobbyist around the use of polar solvents and what that might be doing to increase the crud that we see on our tracks because of the amount of oxidation on our nickel silver, but also the trying to get down to the physics of what's going on. And that led me on a bit of a rabbit hole down to understand what was the chemical formula of the black gunk that we see on our tracks and what causes that. And then what's the best way of removing it?
And preventing it.
And preventing it. Because in the end, I don't want a clean track every time I run my trains. I want a clean track maybe once every few months. And, you know, most of the time I come out and just run trains.
Indeed, yeah, exactly the same. I think worldwide we've all suffered with this dirty track. And as you said to me, perhaps you're making your life harder by cleaning with IPA or polar solvents. Now, this is the thing. It sounds all very complicated. It's not really. You've got non-polar and polar. And it would seem that the polar solvents, if I'm getting this right, actually encourage arcing, micro-arcing. And that micro-arcing blasts off tiny molecules of your track and your wheels, and then it gets oxidized. And this is the biggest percentage of the muck that we see on the track, isn't it?
Yeah, so that was really interesting. A number of people have analysed chemically the black gunk because there was a lot of conjecture around it was mostly dust or hair or skin particles, etc. And what they found was nearly all of it was nickel silver. Was nickel or silver. And so what that said was that something was happening to get rid of the material off the track and put it onto the rails. Mm. And when the Model Railroad Hobbyist article came out, one of the things that popped up in one of the forums was when you turned the lights off, you could actually see some of the micro-arcing occurring. And what that suggested was that micro-arcing, what you were saying, was blasting bits of metal off the track that was then, when it got in contact with the air, oxidizing and forming the black material that we see on our wheels and rails. Yeah. Well, hopefully not anymore.
Yeah, well, hopefully we've got a way through that. So we actually done some testing. Now, I went for WD-40 contact cleaner, not to be confused with normal WD-40, which please don't put it on your track. I just beg you don't. But this one is WD-40 contact cleaner. My other chemical of choice was going to be pure, simple, lighter fluid. Now, this was what my dad was using in the 70s. And you know what? He had it right because it is a non-polar solvent. But it does have a bit of odour. I mean, this is flammable as well. Caution people, both these things are flammable, but then so is IPA. So I cleaned one circuit of my 2-circuit track with IPA, and I cleaned all the stock wheels and the loco wheels. And then I cleaned the other with WD-40 contact cleaner. And then using a little microscope, if I just share my screen here, Tony, is that all right with you?
Yeah, go for your life.
So I'm going to try and scroll through this very carefully, people. This is the track that I cleaned with the WD-40 contact cleaner. Now, it's a very low frame rate microscope, but it is quite a huge magnification, as you can see. All you're just seeing there is the metal of the track, which is pretty much what it looks like. Now, as you can see, there's nothing much to see as you expect. Now I'm going to swap over to the other rail there, and we're just going to scroll down through. And already you can see these little black bits that are appearing. We think these are the micro-arcing. Now, can you see that clearly, Tony?
Yeah, that's excellent. It's amazing how it's building up already.
Already. And this was after about 50 minutes of running. I had two trains identical. It was a Bachmann Class 24 and a Bachmann Class 25. Can't get much more identical. 4 coaches, metal wheels. And they just ran for 50 minutes continuously. I'll show you the video later. But we found this all over the track that have been treated with the IPA. Now, not 50 minutes before. We think this could be the micro-arcing visible to see, don't we, Tony?
Yeah, and I think what Mike's showing you there is that black gunk is building up on the outside of the rail. And so what we think is happening is the micro-arcing is probably occurring at the points where the rail and wheel are just contacting and probably not so well. So it's probably not right on the corner where that's going to be an issue. It's going to be a little bit further out. And so what we think is that micro-arcing and the build-up is what slowly accumulates on your rails and on your wheels. So if you can reduce the amount of arcing by improving the contact between the wheel and the rail, you should reduce the amount of build-up, and therefore you shouldn't have to clean your wheels anywhere near as often.
Indeed. And it would seem that using the non-polar cleaning solvents actually protects the track because it discourages the micro-arcing and so thereful the oxidation. Now, oxidation, that's rust, isn't it?
It is rust. That's all it is.
So that's what it is, people. If we're saying oxidation, it's just posh rust. But it's just metal turning into gunk, and this causes insulation and causes all the problems we've known about for many, many years.
And I think it's important to say that, you know, people have known about this problem since the 60s. There was a gentleman, Lynn Westcott, a model railroader in the States, who used this product called No-Ox ID. And this No-Ox ID is used to clean contacts on electrical equipment. They use it to both clean the contacts, to lubricate them, and to minimize further oxidation. So that's telling us a long time ago that people realized that the contact between the wheel and rail was important, and we needed to keep it clean, and we needed to stop it from oxidizing.
Yeah.
These days, we've got contact cleaner to do the same thing. And so where Mike's using the WD-40 contact cleaner in Australia, we have that, and we also have this CRC one. And the only reason I'm using this is I bought a bottle a while ago, and I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, that's the only downside I found of this, because it's a spray can, and they don't appear to make it in the little bottle. You have to be a bit careful when you're spraying this. They say, and I did write out to WD-40, and they did respond. Somebody called Dom came back, that it is safe on all plastics and rubbers. And I did a little test. When I came home last night, I dumped some Pico sleepers into some WD-40 contact cleaner and the lighter fluid. The results are exactly the same. Now, I'd noticed when using another cleaner that these became brittle, but as you can see, I don't know if you can see, nice and flexible still, not snapping up in my fingers.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's been in there a good, 8 hours, I suppose. So there would appear to be no detrimental effects to the main plastics, which were likely to get it on it. But both these things evaporate really quickly.
Yep.
They have to be a bit swifter with your application. Now, I think Tony and I both use the Tidy Track.
Yep.
Yeah, which is a great way of applying, and you can use it to spray on the bottom of your little track cleaning cars. It evaporates really quickly anyway, so
yeah.
It shouldn't do any damage. I would be cautious with traction tyres. They say that it won't affect near prim or rubber. I would still be cautious and perhaps not run a traction-tired loco with your track cleaning car if you're applying this. But that's just me, because I hate having to replace traction tyres.
Yeah, and I think, you know, these products, they're hydrocarbon based, so they're going to be pretty gentle on plastics, because plastics are just hydrocarbons as well, like oil and petrol, etc. The thing that's most important, I think, about this is that they do evaporate relatively quickly. So even if they were a bit of an issue for traction tyres, as long as you don't run your locos right behind where you've cleaned, you should be fairly right, because within a few, 20 seconds or so, it'll all be gone.
Now, of course, track cleaning videos are not a new phenomenon, and I was looking at one the other day done by Sam's Trains. He actually tested lighter fuel and a number of other cleaners on plastics, and I think he found that the lighter fuel didn't do any damage to even a loco bodywork. The paint and everything all stayed okay. I think he said it was slightly glossier afterwards. But don't recommend you do that, but it would appear that these chemicals aren't too dangerous for the stuff that we very much love and cherish.
Well, and this stuff here, when I cleaned off some oil off a loco that I'd weathered, turned it nearly completely white, because this stuff will attack things like dull coat.
Yes, that's IPA, yeah?
Yeah.
IPA. The IPA is a paint thinner, isn't it? I mean, I think some people...
Yeah.
Yes, it's quite savage, particularly on Lima, and I've got a lot of Lima stuff. It will make them go white.
Which is good if you're modelling China clay, but maybe not.
quick and easy application. I think, there's still a place for IPA on our railways. Tony was saying perhaps the plastic wheels and things like that to get rid of the muck. But it would appear that using a non-polar solvent, I'm still getting used to that, it is the way forward. And if you want to save yourself work and you want to keep your track and your wheels cleaner, non-polar is the way to go. WD-40 contact cleaner, lighter fuel, if you don't mind the smell. The CRC contact cleaner that you've got.
Yeah,
I bought another article in Model Rail Hobbyist. You will see they produce a chart which goes from non-polar through to sort of mid-range to the very polar solvents. Now, very polar is water. So you wouldn't be spraying water on your track to keep your track clean. Another thing that IPA does, it does pull in water from the atmosphere and hold it. So you can see what it's doing there. That will cause oxidization, I can't even speak this morning, oxidization, which is what we're trying to avoid. So I hope
and the reason for that is that the polar solvents are charged at one end. So if you think of water, you've got two hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atom. And the oxygen atom is sort of at the point of a triangle, and that's where a lot of the electrical charge is. And so that's why water is a very good solvent. It dissolves all sorts of things, and the same with IPA and acetone. They're very strong polar solvents, and they work well that way. The things that we're using in here are hydrocarbons, and hydrocarbons are just lots of carbon molecules and hydrogen molecules bonded together, and they don't have that charge on them. And that charge is what actually starts the oxidation process. So that's why it sort of makes sense from the science point of view. It's making sense from the chemical and physical approaches, and it's borne the test of time. So I don't like recommending something unless I've used it myself, and I'm a scientist by trade, so I also want to make sure that I understand why does it work the way it does. And the thing that I'm finding, and the reason for reaching out, is that it all seems to come together and make sense, and what we're finding with our experiments is, surprise, surprise, it actually does work.
It's actually true. The way forward, like Tony said, don't like to recommend things to the world in general. This is just our own opinions, of course, but it seems to be based in solid scientific fact, and it seems to work. We've done the tests, wouldn't come to you unless we had. So it's up to you to go out there and have a little look yourselves.
Yep. And, I think for the foreseeable future, we'll still be running electricity through our rails to power our trains. There is obviously the dead rail movement, that's using batteries, and that's getting more traction here and there. And I actually have a garden railway where I use battery power simply because I don't want to clean the track outside, So, I don't think I'd go through, a dozen cans of this a week if I was doing it through
Yeah.
DCC or DC. So, there's certainly those things, but I reckon DCC and DC are going to be around for a lot longer yet. And while that continues to be the case, wouldn't it make sense to try and minimise the oxidation and improve the contact for the electricity? So, that's all we're trying to say.
Rather than cleaning track. So,
a huge thank you to Tony from YouTube channel SteamsoundsAU for that fascinating discussion. So, dear viewer, in closing, I'll now present you with the test trains mentioned, another view of that microscope view of the rails, and a few other findings. Sorry this was such a long video, but I hope you'll agree the content is well worth it. Will you be changing over to a non-polar solvent now? If you do, I'd love to hear your findings. Take care now. Okay, welcome to the test setup to see if there is a difference between polar and non-polar solvents for track cleaning and wheel cleaning. Now I'm going to be cleaning the track with my Tidy Track and new pads. They'll be separate between the two. We have the WD-40 fast drying contact cleaner, not normal WD-40, which is said to be non-polar, even though it does contain around 10% IPA. And then we have my old reliable pure IPA, which is polar. And I have set up a test train, two test trains here. Let's see if I can zoom in. This is all being done rather ad hoc. Both 4-coach sets, Mark 1s, and I shall use my class 24 and class 71 to haul the trains. Now I will clean the tracks completely first. I'm going to clean the outer line with the WD-40 non-polar and the inner line with the IPA. I will then clean all the wheels on the coaches, again separating them out so that the ones that are currently on the inner circuit will stay on the inner and will be cleaned with IPA, and the outer ones will be cleaned with the WD-40, as will the loco wheels. Okay, everything's been cleaned as I explained. Now, do a track test. On my finger, you can see virtually nothing. We'll do it on there, virtually nothing. All the wheels have been cleaned, locos have been cleaned. So let us start off the class 71, which is hauling the train on the non-polar WD-40 cleaner. We'll set them off at about a scale 30, and then the 24 on the old IPA polar. As a amusing little thought that class 71 is on the non-polar express. You always tell when someone's been wheel cleaning, can't you? Look at that finger. So there we are. Will the non-polar express or the polar express win? Tune in a bit later. Okay, so after around 50 minutes, perhaps a little bit more, I then used the microscope to look at the track. We're looking here at the track that was treated with the WD-40 non-polar cleaner, and as you can see, it's still pretty clean. Now I've swapped over now to the one treated with the IPA, and let's have a look and we'll see what we can see. First of all, you see some more little bit of black bits of arcing that's been going on. Look at that, particularly bad there. The finger test after 50 minutes, where you rub your finger on the track, wasn't conclusive, but certainly after a long extended running session it stays a lot cleaner with the non-polar solvent.